115 to 104. Cavs were ahead 93-71 with under 8 minutes to go. Knicks were down 22 in the fourth and still won the game. Jalen Brunson scored 38 points. Jason Kidd is no longer the Mavericks head coach. They mutually parted ways, the club said. The new team president there in Dallas is Masai Ujiri. No NHL on the night, but Vancouver did fire coach Adam Foote and his staff after one season. That team has a new general manager. Carlos Alcaraz will miss the French Open and Wimbledon due to his wrist injury. The Milwaukee Brewers moved into first in the NL Central, half game over the Cubs and the Cardinals, winning in Chicago 5-2 against the Cubbies. Cardinals with a 3-run homer in the 10th beat the Pirates 9-6. Dodgers with a run in the 9th, won 5-4 at San Diego.
Live from the heart of SEC country, this is your daily fix of grit, guts, and gridiron glory. Welcome to the Deep South College Football Show.
Owens, here he goes! Georgia retakes the lead!
Breaking down the biggest matchups, the boldest takes, and the deepest rivalries in college football on Tide 100.9 and 12:30 a.m. WTBC.
Intercepted! They confused him! Sabian Brown headed the other way! Touchdown Tide!
From Fayetteville to Gainesville, from the Grove to Toomer's Corner, it's SEC football.
Chambers delivers! Touchdown!
Now, here's your award-winning host, Wyatt Fulton.
And welcome into a Wednesday edition of the Deep South College Football Show right here on Tide 100.9 and 12:30 a.m. WTBC, your home for Alabama Crimson Tide sports and SEC football. If you're hanging out with us on YouTube, we greatly appreciate it. Be sure to hit that like and subscribe button on the YouTube page. And, hey, leave a chat. We got a live chat going here, so be sure to drop your messages there in the chat. We're also hanging out on the Tide 100.9 Facebook page as well as the X account at FultonW_. So a big thank you to everybody who's hanging out with us here today on a beautiful but hot Wednesday. I got my days mixed up. Wednesday afternoon here in Tuscaloosa, Alabama. Hanging out with us behind the mic there, we got Reed Karch in the studio. Reed, how you doing, man?
Wyatt, I'm good, and I don't blame you for mixing up these days because especially with this heat, I walked in here and I was telling Norris, I was like, man, dude, it just feels like every single day it just finds a way to get hotter. And I've lived here my entire life.
I'm saying I live down in Mobile, 251 represent, but yeah, lived down in Mobile, lived up here in Tuscaloosa. It's hot, man. It's the dog days of summer.
Now, I will give you this, Wyatt. I went down there, my senior year for a football game, and I remember we were playing St. Paul. All right, so right around
St. Paul's Episcopal.
Yeah, so right around the area, and I remember just compared to like our practices and warm-ups here, I remember warming up there, and I was pouring. I mean, so the coast, it is really – I don't know if anybody's really lived down there unlike you, but, man, it gets bad.
It's warm down there on the coast. We got Norris hanging out with us here in studio as well. Norris, how you doing, man?
Norris actually just walked out, but he will
my bad.
Right back in.
Well, I hope he's doing all right here today. We got a fun show for you guys today. Magazine season is coming. That's the Phil Steele magazine, the Athlon Sports magazine, Sports Illustrated, I think, has got one coming out too. College football preview magazines. And Reed, it seems like over the last couple of years, maybe preview magazines haven't had the success or the notoriety that they have. But to me, it almost feels like they're having a resurgence because of the transfer portal in college football. So many kids are transferring nowadays. Oklahoma State's got 40 new kids. LSU's got 40 new kids. And so a lot of people are starting to buy these magazines again because they're trying to get familiar with their team before the season. You don't want to be going out there week number one and elbowing the guy next to you. Hey, man, who are these kids? Who are these guys? I don't remember any of these players from last year. And number 3 had dreadlocks last year. He doesn't have them this year. So who is my team? Who's playing on my team?
With number changes, you just got to kind of consider a little bit of everything because I remember I was with my dad at A-Day, and he was asking me, he's like, wait, who was that? And I mean, I'm like, sometimes with you, I'm like, oh, wait, did this guy change his number? So, yeah, it's a great time to be in magazine season.
It is. It's a great time to be in magazine season, but Athlon Sports does this thing where they have anonymous coaches talking about certain teams here. And so we're going to talk about it today because all 16 SEC teams had anonymous coaches talking about their program here. So we've got all 16 written off here. This is all courtesy of Athlon Sports here. But yes, all 16 SEC teams had an anonymous coach talk about them. So let's dive right into the conversation today. We'll start things alphabetically with the hometown team. Again, we are based in Tuscaloosa. We're on Tide 100.9 radio here in Tuscaloosa. So let's start with the team at the University of Alabama. That is Kalen DeBoer and the Crimson Tide. According to Athlon Sports here, anonymous SEC coach. Now, these are their peers, right? We're not getting, a Big Ten team coming or a Big Ten coach coming down talking about Alabama. This is somebody within the SEC has said this about the University of Alabama. Quote, an anonymous SEC head coach. With whoever was going to follow Nick Saban, there was going to be a measuring stick on the toughness or the softness of the program. The run game statistics do not vouch for toughness. They have to fix that. Losing Ty Simpson didn't help either. The top 2 running backs are gone. 3 of the top offensive linemen are gone. And wide receiver Jeremy Bernard was a special player. Losing all of them does not allow people to play you honest so that you can run the ball. People are going to be able to play 2 high safeties, create multiple looks, and create issues for them when talking here about the University of Alabama. Reed, I 110% agree that the toughness is not there for the University of Alabama. You look at it the last couple of – and it may not just be, a Kalen DeBoer thing. I know everybody says West Coast, he's bringing this finesse-style offense over. That may not necessarily be the case when you look at Kalen DeBoer. But I agree the physicality is not there. It just hasn't been there with Alabama the last couple of seasons. I would argue, as Christian Miller does, I would argue that physicality has, going back to Nick Saban's final season, was not there for the University of Alabama. They got dominated by Michigan's defensive front. They got dominated by Texas's defensive front. Hell, they were in a slugfest with South Florida in 2023. Well, that was Nick Saban's final season. And now you look at Kalen DeBoer the last couple of years. He's had some big wins. Beating Georgia twice was a massive feat. Beating Oklahoma in the college football playoff. Handling LSU the 2 times that you did play the Tigers there. Those were big wins. So the highs are really high. The peak of the mountaintop is really, really high under Kalen DeBoer. But the low of the valley is also really, really low when you look at Alabama under Kalen DeBoer. Embarrassing loss to Vanderbilt before we knew what Vanderbilt was going to be. You look at the loss to Oklahoma in 2024 where you just get blown out in Norman. You go to Tallahassee and you get smoked by Florida State. The physicality just has not been there for Alabama the last couple of seasons.
And I completely agree with you, White. And I love how, there's several different ways you can, I guess, substitute what really is toughness. And this anonymous coach, the first thing they go to is the run game. So I do kind of find that a little bit intriguing because, like you were saying, against certain losses, it was our line that got, defeated up front. But this anonymous coach went straight for the running backs, which, of course, we both know has been a problem this season.
It has been. And the anonymous coach was not 100% correct. Top 2 running backs. Okay, well, yes, we know Jam Miller's gone, but you look at the way Alabama ended the season. Daniel Hill was your second leading back. Well, he is back. I imagine they're kind of basing this off the week 1 depth chart where you had Jam Miller listed and Richard Young listed as your top 2.
Yeah, that's what I was telling Christian Miller because that's really the only thing at least that I could think of.
Yeah, so Jam Miller being listed as the starting running back. Obviously, we know he is gone from Alabama, but you do look at the loss of Richard Young, who didn't really get a ton of playing time down there or down the stretch of the season here when you look at the University of Alabama. But again, Daniel Hill is back for Alabama. Kevin Riley is back, but you've got to be able to run this football. Reed, I don't know if you listened to the show yesterday, but we talked all day yesterday about the run game and the offensive line and the physicality of Alabama yesterday, kind of detailing what went wrong last season and where Alabama can maybe make things a little bit better this upcoming season here when you look at physicality and the run game. But bottom line, Reed, it's got to get better. I don't know that Alabama's going to have the success that they did last season if Keelan Russell or Austin Mack, whoever ends up winning that job, has got to kind of be Superman in the way that Ty Simpson was at points last season.
Why? How much does it concern you? Of course, we talked a little bit prior to your show about the run game, but if it doesn't get better or even stays the same from last season, right? We don't see very much to little progress. How much does that concern you?
It does concern me a good bit here. when you look at the offensive and defensive, or when you look at the offensive line for Alabama, I've said it all offseason, and a lot of people have said it all offseason. Look, it is a possibility that, this offensive line and this run game does get better, because as rough as it was at times last year, when you hit rock bottom, there's nowhere to go but up, right? That's the general idea. So we expect it to get better here. But at the same time, there is an outside chance this offensive line and this run game is equal to or worse than what it was last year. And if that's the case, now you've really got some problems if you're Alabama, because the physicality will not be there. Now, we think it'll get better because Alabama has addressed those positions, right? They've addressed the offensive line room, 11 new players and a new coach with Adrian Clem, just like Jared and Houston just let us know here. I think Adrian Clem will help that room out a lot. I think his mindset, his mentality will be very beneficial for Alabama this upcoming season. But there is that small voice in the back of your mind that says, hey, what if they're not that improved? What if they're only marginally better, right? Alabama had, 104.5 yards per game on the ground last season. That's including the two really good rushing performances against ULM and Eastern Illinois. I think against Power 4 competition, Alabama only averaged 86 rushing yards per game last season, capped off by the embarrassment in Atlanta against Georgia and the embarrassment against Indiana in the Rose Bowl. What happens if Alabama's offensive line and run game can only muster 110 rushing yards per game? Take the season-long average like we did with the 104 there. What happens if it's only 110 rushing yards per game? Theoretically, yes. Statistically, it did get a little bit better, but it's not this major jump that we really wanted to see. And I'm not saying expect Alabama to run for 160, 170 a game, but you've got to be better than what you were last season, because you've got to be able to help out a young quarterback when you look at Keelan Russell or Austin Mack. Austin Mack, a little bit more veteran, but in terms of starting experience, both of them damn near might as well be rookies at this point, because neither of them have ever started a college football game. Austin Mack was getting more reps than Keelan Russell was last season, yes, but neither of them have started a game. The only meaningful game where Austin Mack came in and took meaningful reps was the Rose Bowl, and Alabama was down by 35 points by that point. Or excuse me, Alabama was down by 20 points, 24 points, and then ended up losing by 35 to Indiana. So you've got to be able to establish some sort of physicality there. And whoever this anonymous coach is, we have no idea who these coaches are. This could be Alex Golesh. This could be Lane Kiffin. This could be Steve Sarkisian. It could be Kirby Smart. We have no clue in the world who this coach is when talking about Alabama. But they're absolutely right. The physicality is not there for Alabama, and that has got to change. And if it doesn't in 2026, I think you got to have some really uncomfortable conversations around a lot of people in Tuscaloosa coming out of the 2026 season. So taking a break on the other side here, we'll dive into the rest of the SEC as we look to talk about the Arkansas Razorbacks up next here on the Deep South College Football Show on Tide 100.9 and 1230 AM WTBC, your home for Alabama Crimson Tide sports.
It started with my great-grandfather, grandfather, then father, then me.
So, Dad, who comes after you?
Who said anything about after me?
I'm just saying.
I'm Tom Osmond.
And I'm Sally Osmond. There's a good chance we found rings for your grandparents when they got married, and now we want to help you.
Bracelets, earrings, and precious gemstones for all occasions.
In the Tuscaloosa Galleria between Edgar's and Joey's and FincherandOsmond.com.
If you're looking for a golf cart or repairs to yours, stop by Dixie Custom Carts on Greensboro Avenue in Tuscaloosa. They sell Club Car, Donago, and Atlas golf carts. They can customize it to your specifications with a lift, tires, wheels, and lights. Dixie Custom Carts also carries a full line of parts and accessories, including chargers, windshields, hitches, Bluetooth kits, and so much more. If your golf cart needs repairs, the pros at Dixie Custom Carts can handle the job. Dixie Custom Carts, Greensboro Avenue in Tuscaloosa.
What does it mean to advertise and do your marketing with Town Square Media Tuscaloosa? Melissa started her business in 2014. What would you say to someone considering Town Square Media Tuscaloosa?
My experience with Town Square Media has been awesome, and I would definitely recommend it to anyone. I think that this is the first time in my marketing experience that I've been able to see my return on investment. I would definitely say in the past that has not been the case. In this, I like knowing that that's 100%. A lot of the marketing we've done has been radio. You guys have so much more to offer than that, whether it's, websites, from targeted marketing to radio. You are kind of a one-stop shop, and it makes doing marketing so much easier. So I would definitely recommend it.
For more info on marketing with Town Square Media Tuscaloosa, call 205-345-7200 or click on Advertise with Us on our website.
Tide 100.9 Tuscaloosa weather.
Here's your Tuscaloosa and West Alabama forecast. We're going to hold on to clouds here this afternoon. Scattered showers and storms around 87. The storm chances continue through the night tonight down to 68. More storms on tap for tomorrow. High tomorrow 86. The rain chances continue on here through the close of the week and into the holiday weekend. Daytime highs in the mid-80s, nighttime lows in the upper 60s. This is Richard the Weathering at the Weather Channel for Town Square Media Tuscaloosa.
It's 91 degrees in Tuscaloosa.
Follow Tide 100.9 on Facebook today to watch our live shows, read the great articles, and interact with Bama fans today.
We're hanging out here on the Deep South College Football Show on Tide 100.9 and 12:30 a.m. WTBC, your home for Alabama Crimson Tide sports. Hey, I think we got Adam here in the chat giving us a roll tide. Adam, we appreciate you watching, man. We greatly appreciate you hanging out with us here today on the program. We talked about Alabama in the last segment here. When you look at anonymous coaching comments from across the SEC, if you missed the last segment, I encourage you to go back and listen to it. They basically said, hey, the physicality is not there with the University of Alabama, which is something that I think a lot of fans have been upset with when you look at the University of Alabama. But we also detailed a little bit today and yesterday some of the changes that Alabama's made. New offensive line coach, new players in that room, kind of retooling the running back room here at the University of Alabama. Our next coach up here, or our next program up here, is the Arkansas Razorbacks. New head coach Ryan Silverfield here. An anonymous SEC head coach said of Ryan Silverfield and Arkansas, quote, "They are not considered a sleeping giant. Ryan Silverfield is a great coach who may have taken the wrong Power 4 job at the wrong time. If you look at the SEC schedule, the 9 teams that they have to play are pretty daunting, and then you add Utah. That doesn't set up for year one success. In this day and age, if you don't have year one success, narratives get forced upon you that you've got to find a way to shake. Silverfield has always had excellent offenses. They put a lot on their quarterback to make checks and reads. He's very calm on game day and very, very bright. He understands the ending of games and how to handle those situations with timeouts." When you look at Arkansas here, very, very complimentary of what Ryan Silverfield is as a head coach, but it's a ding on the program, and it's kind of what we saw at the end of the Sam Pittman era, right? Just kind of that lack of physicality, that lack of talent there that they were able to go and get in Fayetteville, Arkansas. And with the money they're having to kind of shell out for John Calipari and the basketball side of things here, I do start to call into question Arkansas's commitment to football in the SEC, just again because it doesn't seem like they're really willing to open the checkbook here when you look at when you look at what's going on up in Fayetteville, Arkansas. And again, the anonymous SEC head coach mentioned it. That schedule's tough, man. I mean, you got multiple programs that are considered to be playoff contending teams this upcoming season here. And like they mentioned, you add Utah. I mean, you've got Georgia, you've got Texas, you've got LSU, you've got that rivalry game with Texas A&M. I mean, all those SEC teams are expected to be playoff contending teams this upcoming season. And then again, you add Utah, a team that has been kind of one of the more physical programs in the Pac-12, in the Big 12 when they did transition programs. I find it very, very difficult for Arkansas to have success in year number 1 under Ryan Silverfield, just because offense, you expect it to be pretty daggum good. He's been able to field some really good offenses, had a great quarterback in A.J. Hill last year at Memphis, has a really good run game as well. But defensively, Arkansas has left a lot to be desired over the last couple of seasons.
Yeah, why? And I think it's kind of funny because the comment was so complimentary, right? I mean, it's probably exactly what I would want to hear, except for, like you said, the whole kind of shot that they made at the program. But we, like you just mentioned, it
was almost a backhanded compliment.
Yeah, that's kind of what I was alluding to.
Yeah, I mean, you look at Arkansas here. Adam hanging out with us again here says Arkansas's problem is there's no in-state talent. And I mean, you're not overly wrong. I mean, I love Fayetteville, Arkansas. I've been there. I've been to a couple of games up in Fayetteville. I love the area. Northwest Arkansas is a very beautiful area, but there's not that recruiting hotbed, right? And so you're having to go out of state. You're having to go kind of chase programs like LSU, like in Alabama, like a Georgia. You're having to go outside of your state to go get premier talent. I mean, you have to go outside of your state. Suddenly it does get a little more difficult because you're competing. If you go into Baton Rouge, one of the hotbeds of recruiting talent areas, you're competing with LSU, who is sitting right there in Baton Rouge, Louisiana. I mean, 5 minutes from a high school kid. You got to go compete with LSU, and you got to compete with Alabama, and you got to compete with Georgia, who are all trying to tap into that talent pool in Baton Rouge. If you go into Texas, you got to deal with Texas, A&M, Oklahoma, recruiting out of those states. If you go east and go into Georgia and Florida, you got to deal with Bama, Florida, Georgia. And then if you try and go get a receiver from South Florida, Godspeed to you on that one, because you've got every major program, including Big Ten teams, USC, Oregon, Ohio State, that are going to be competing for some of the top talent when you look at the state of Florida there. So again, this is going to be a very, very difficult spot here for Ryan Silverfield. Now, I do like him as a head coach. I think he leads a really good program most of the time. I think his offenses, again, are something that you have to be worried about if you're an opposing defensive coordinator. But Arkansas's problem the last couple of seasons has been that defensive side of the ball. Ryan Silverfield, not a defensive-minded head coach here. So you do start to be a little concerned when you look at what the state of the Arkansas program is when you look at Ryan Silverfield in year number 1 down there in Fayetteville. We got Jackson O'Brien hanging out with us, man. He was off the last couple of days. Jackson, how you doing, man?
I'm doing well. Had a nice refresh over the weekend, so I'm good.
Good to hear. Good to hear. Did you see the anonymous SEC head coaching comments on Alabama? Just what were your thoughts on that?
I did not see that.
So I'll read it again here really quick for Alabama. With whoever was going to follow Nick Saban, there was going to be a measuring stick on the toughness or softness of the program. The run game statistics did not vouch for toughness. They have to fix that. Losing Ty Simpson doesn't help that. The top 2 backs are gone. 3 of the top offensive linemen are gone, and wide receiver Jeremy Bernard was a special player. Losing all of them doesn't allow people to play you honest so that you can run the ball. People are going to be able to play 2 high safeties, create multiple looks, and create issues for them. Double-digit losses were never a thing under Nick Saban. Now they're a thing. That creates concern, talking points, and narratives, which is tough to deal with because the players can see it.
I mean, a lot of that is accurate, but I would also say that we're still pretty early into the tenure of DeBoer. And a lot of those issues can be rectified, especially in this offseason. Losing your 2 starting backs, I mean, they weren't, Najee Harris level players to begin with. Not to say that they weren't quality players. But I do think that this backfield probably is a little better now, especially with the addition of Crowell. And then offensive line play, I do think, that's basically what all this hinges on. And losing Ty Simpson, yes, that does hurt you, but I don't feel like the options that we do have at quarterback are that much less than the quality of output that Ty gave you. I think Austin Mack can probably play at the same level of Ty if they give him the shot. And if he's not the starter, then that means Keelan Russell is that much better. And so will you see a lot of different looks in that 2 safety high look that they're talking about from defenses? Yes. But also with Ryan Grubb and DeBoer helming this offense, we've seen time and again them just pick many people apart.
Yeah, they've been able to pick a lot of people apart there. Our next team that we're going to talk about here, when we look at anonymous SEC head coaching comments, it's going to be the Auburn Tigers with new head coach Alex Golesh here. You look at the anonymous SEC head coaching comments regarding Alex Golesh and Auburn. Quote, honestly, It's a pretty good fit. You see him paired with defensive coordinator DJ Durkin, and he's a grinder. I see how the system could be attractive to bring your quarterback with you, and there's not a big learning curve there. I could see them having success. They were really good on defense last year. They were the best defense that we saw. You add some offense with that, and they can be pretty good. I sense that there's going to be a mentality to be where they are not, I sense that there's going to be a mentality to be who they are and not conform to the past and how things have been run there. Teams that play them early, they're going to be surprised with how efficient they are with the guys that they have been in that system here. And you look at Auburn, and yes, it was a very, very good thing that they were able to retain DJ Durkin here. But I do question the ability for Auburn to have success at the SEC level with the talent that they've currently got on the roster here. We've seen Byron Brown do it in a couple of big performances against SEC teams, but now you've got to do it over the course of a full season. Now you're going to get everybody's attention every single week, week in, week out. You're going to get everybody's best look that week because you're Auburn, because you play in the SEC. And so looking at it here, I think Alex Golesh probably is a good fit for Auburn here. He seems like somebody that's going to be able to kind of use those offensive weapons in a way that they need to be able to use them, because we know sure as hell Hugh Freeze wasn't going to be able to do it last season. So looking at Auburn here, I think they've got a lot of really good potential. But we said it yesterday, everybody looks great on paper. What happens when you line up within those white lines? What happens when you get on a football field? Can Byron Brown take that next step and be an SEC level starter? Can you get the run game to stay effective with Jeremiah Cobb? What are you going to do at wide receiver to replace the guys that you lost via the transfer portal? And then defensively as well, they're going to be a strong defense yet again this season. But if the offense isn't able to play complementary football to help out the defense, then obviously you're going to have some major points of concern here when you look at the Auburn Tigers here. Jackson, what do you think about Auburn here this season?
I think they're kind of in a tough spot. I do think they have the potential to be, one of those sleeper teams that makes their way up into the lower half of the top half of the conference.
They might shock us. They might shock us. I have a feeling they might shock some people.
Yeah, but I do think they're kind of facing an uphill battle with just the talent composite of their roster. I mean, you're basically importing an entire G5 roster, offensively speaking, to fill that. Right, and you're losing Cam Coleman and a bunch of other pieces. I mean, Singleton, he's now at Florida, so that was a huge offensive weapon that they brought in last year and really did nothing with. So I do think they have a shot to surprise people, but also I think they're facing an uphill battle with, that USF roster that they're importing, when that's going to be going up against Georgia's defense, Alabama's defense, multitude of other defenses that probably out-talent match you at every position.
Yeah, it's going to be tough for Auburn here. And one of the big concerns I have for Auburn this season is a concern that I've got for Alabama, for Oklahoma, for Texas, for USC, for Ohio State, for Indiana. It's the same problem that has just permeated college football for years now. What's the offensive line going to look like? Because college football games are won in the trenches. We can talk about the finesse and the high-flying offenses, but at the end of the day, what two teams played for the national championship last year? Indiana and Miami. What did they do better than everybody else on their schedule? Offensive and defensive line, physicality in the trenches. Miami had two of the best defensive ends in the game, as well as a first-round offensive tackle. Indiana had a Joe Moore Award finalist offensive line with a probable first-round pick standing at left tackle that, oh, by the way, is back for this season, and Carter Smith, one of the best players in the game this upcoming season. So Auburn's concern for me is the offensive line. If they can protect Byron Brown and allow him to make the reads that he needs to and make plays with his legs inside and outside of the pocket, then I think Auburn's going to shock a lot of people this season. But if that offensive line continues to be a struggle, if you can't protect Byron Brown, if you can't create lanes in the run game, then Auburn may be another issue here. It may be another rough season down there on the Plains. Now, I will say, if they go 6-6 and make a bowl game, I consider that a success in year number one at Auburn based on what Auburn has done in the past. Over the past 5 years, I would consider a bowl game a success right now for Auburn. And if they can, knock off somebody that they probably shouldn't have, maybe a Florida, if they can somehow take down Georgia or Alabama on the road, then I think it's a massive success in year number one for Alex Golesh down there on the Plains. We'll go ahead and take another break here, and on the other side, we'll continue rolling through the SEC as we look at another first-time head coach in the Southeastern Conference, John Sumrall and the Florida Gators, here on Tide 100.9 and 1230 AM WTBC.
Listen for hourly local news updates from the Tuscaloosa Thread, powered by Tuscaloosa Chrysler Jeep Dodge Ram, Tuscaloosa's destination for iconic Jeeps. Owner loyalty earns $1,500 cash back on a new 2026 Jeep Grand Cherokee.
What does it mean to advertise and do your marketing with Town Square Media Tuscaloosa? Melissa started her business in 2014. What would you say to someone considering Town Square Media Tuscaloosa?
My experience with Town Square Media has been awesome, and I would definitely recommend it to anyone. I think that this is the first time in my marketing experience that I've been able to see my return on investment. I would definitely say in the past that has not been the case. In this, I like knowing that that's 100%. A lot of the marketing we've done has been radio. You guys have so much more to offer than that, whether it's, websites, from targeted marketing to radio. You are kind of a one-stop shop, and it makes doing marketing so much easier. So I would definitely recommend it.
For more info on marketing with Town Square Media Tuscaloosa, call 205-345-7200 or click on Advertise with Us on our website.
This is a special alert to all Americans who own a vehicle with less than 200,000 miles with an auto warranty about to expire or with no warranty coverage at all. Due to a decline in the economy, CarShield is announcing a low-cost month-to-month vehicle protection plan that is now available to the public to save any driver out-of-pocket expenses on future auto repairs. Call now to find out how you can pay almost nothing for covered auto repairs. Yes, you heard that correctly. Pay almost nothing for covered auto repairs. An open phone line has been established for all drivers to call for a free quick quote. Call 800-923-6829 now. Drivers who are covered will not have to pay for covered repairs again. This protection plan is at an all-time low. Additionally, drivers who activate this vehicle protection today will also receive free roadside assistance, free towing, and car rental options at no additional cost. Call us for your free quick quote today. 800-923-6829. That's 800-923-6829. What do you have to lose? Call 800-923-6829. Again, 800-923-6829.
Find Tide on Twitter at Tide109 to keep up with show announcements, guests, and our reporters in the field.
Our next program that we will talk about today here on the Deep South College Football Show with anonymous SEC head coach talking season is John Sumrall and the Florida Gators. Florida hiring John Sumrall after letting Billy Napier go last season here. An anonymous SEC head coach says about the Florida Gators here, John Sumrall has hired extremely well. It feels like they've really opened up the checkbook. The question marks would still be along the offensive line and at quarterback, though. They got Aaron Philo from Georgia Tech, who knows the system, but in this league, it's about making critical throws on third down and in the red zone, and that's yet to be seen. Hiring Buster Faulkner was a home run move at offensive coordinator, then getting Philo to come with him and getting Eric Singleton too. Faulkner can coach the offensive football. It is such a departure from what anybody in the SEC does offensively, and they're going to have a couple games where they have an advantage because everything is so new schematically. I look at Florida here, and I really, really like them as kind of a dark horse candidate here in the SEC to be competitive, right? Again, I'm not saying that Florida's going to be this massive, they're not, I don't think they're going to be a playoff contender in year number one, but John Sumrall understands what it takes to win. He waited for the right head coaching opportunity to come available because he was probably a guy that could have left Troy and gone to a Power 4 coaching job, probably could have left Tulane a little bit earlier than he did and taken a Power 4 coaching job. But he goes to a program like Florida that loves football, wants to return to the days of Tim Tebow and what they had back then in the late 2000s, early 2010s with what they had at the football level on that side of things there. And so John Sumrall has done a really good job of blending, bringing in guys from Tulane, really talented players from Tulane, but also understanding I can't just take my Tulane roster and move it over to Florida. We're not going to have success like that. Going and getting one of the best offensive coordinators in the game, going and getting his quarterback that was with him at Georgia Tech and Aaron Philo, and then you retain Jaden Ball. I don't think physicality is going to be a problem here. for the Florida Gators here this season. I think that they actually understand that very, very well down in Gainesville. Now, the question is going to be, at least in my opinion, can that defense, take that next step? If Florida's got, I think, even an average offense and a great defense, Florida's going to be a problem for a lot of teams this season. Can they have that, though? That's going to be the big question for Florida here this upcoming season. But I really, really like what John Summerall's done so far early here in his Florida Gators tenure.
I would agree with that. I think they have a really good defense returning, a lot of good players, especially on that defensive front. And, they always have good DB play. And then as far as bringing in Singleton from Auburn, who was a weapon at Georgia Tech and underutilized at Auburn, and then you have Philo, who's coming in from Georgia Tech. So you kind of have a little bit of repertoire there between those two. And then Dallas Wilson, Jaden Baugh. They have the makings to have a really good offense. And if they have, like you said, a great defense and an average offense, they will be a problem for a lot of people.
And I think Florida's going to have more than an average offense because Buster Faulkner took Haynes King and Jamal Haynes and had them be one of the best offenses in college football. I think going into that rivalry game against Georgia, they were the number one offense in the country. Now Georgia slowed it down considerably, and so they maybe dropped a little bit. North Texas ended with the number one offense in the country, but even still, that was such a prolific offense with a guy like Haynes King running that scheme. Now you've got somebody with a very similar skill set in Aaron Philo. You mentioned the names already. Dallas Wilson at wide receiver, Eric Singleton at wide receiver, Jaden Baugh at running back. So if you're nervous about having a first-time starting quarterback in Aaron Philo, you've got one of the best running backs in the SEC that you can turn around, hand it to him 20 times a game, and more likely than not, you're going to see success on that side of the football. Florida's done a really good job of blending kind of the finesse. I don't really want to call it finesse just because that's viewed so negatively, but maybe a little bit more passing aligned offense with what Buster Faulkner did at Georgia Tech by keeping the physicality in the run game, by keeping a guy like Jaden Baugh, who I think was outside of bringing in, maybe a quarterback that can compete in the SEC. I think the retention of Jaden Baugh was probably the biggest move that John Summerall and Florida had this past offseason here. So really, really like what Florida's been able to do here when you look at this offseason for the Gators. Again, don't really know what it's going to translate to, but I really, really like the direction that Florida is heading. The lights are bright down there in Gainesville, and I think they're really, really excited to see what they can continue to do with John Summerall here in year number one. Moving on to our next team, Kirby Smart and the Georgia Bulldogs here. An anonymous SEC head coach said of Kirby Smart and the Georgia Bulldogs, quote, "Do they still have the depth that they had in 2020? I think the answer to that is no. Those backups or third-string guys are playing for Missouri or Georgia Tech. I don't know that their process is the same. I don't know that their depth is the same. Are those elite programs getting better? Probably not. They have a thinner margin for error. They'll look really similar to how they looked this past year. I think they'll be a playoff team, but I don't know that they're an elite SEC team like the ones you saw in the early 2020s. What they seek to be offensively is don't blow the game. Let's run the ball. Let's let the quarterback get in rhythm. Their confidence in Gunnar Stockton throwing the ball will determine how aggressive they are." I think this is a very, evident take. Georgia's going to go as far as Gunnar Stockton will take them. To win at a high level in the SEC in college football, you've got to be able to have a really good quarterback. You've got to have high-level quarterback play. And Gunnar Stockton at times delivered really good quarterback play last season. And then at other times, made some questionable throws, made some questionable decisions, but I still really like what Gunnar Stockton brings to the table for Georgia. You bring in, or you retain Nate Frazier and Chauncey Bowens as that running back 1-2 punch in the backfield. Georgia's going to be fine defensively with Raylan Wilson back, with KJ Bolden back, with Dalen Everett back in that defensive secondary there. Georgia's going to be a problem on defense every single year under Kirby Smart in that program. Offensively, if Gunnar Stockton takes that next step and can, like Jackson said before, layer some throws over the top of the linebacker, but in front of the safeties, it's a tough throw, but it's something he's going to have to do if Georgia wants to have success this season. Not the toughest schedule in the world. They get Oklahoma at home early. They go on the road to Alabama, but outside of that, you look at Georgia's schedule, and it may not necessarily be the toughest one out there. So you get the opportunity to maybe develop some of that depth that the anonymous SEC head coach was talking about and turn them into guys that probably would start anywhere else anywhere else in the country. And I think Georgia is one of the best chances to compete for a national championship this season.
Yeah, I would agree with that. And as far as the depth concern goes, I think they're deeper than what they have been in the past 2 seasons, especially on defense and even still on offense. I mean, they had the fewest portal departures in the entire conference.
Yep.
Yes, they did lose quite a few players to the draft, but not that many. They're basically returning that entire defense outside of 3 players. That whole defensive line, except for Christian Miller, are coming back.
Yeah.
I do think they have depth, and we saw it in their G-Day game. They had a bunch of players out of injury, and it still looked like Georgia football. And so I do think they have the depth, and I think it does all hinge on Gunnar Stockton and those receivers, because that defense is going to be fine. That run game is going to be fine. They're returning 3 out of 5 starters on the offensive line.
Yeah.
So can they throw the football, and are they willing to take that risk?
Georgia's got the opposite problem of what Alabama does. You know Alabama's going to be able to throw the football around the yard a lot, but Alabama's question is physicality. Georgia, I don't think there's ever going to be a time that we're going to question Georgia physicality under Kirby Smart. I don't think there's ever a chance that we'll question that. But Georgia's got to be able to throw the football. We saw that with Trinidad Chambliss. We saw it with Carson Beck. We saw it with Fernando Mendoza. You can have all the physicality in the world, but at the end of the day, is your quarterback going to go out and make the plays that need to be made? Can Gunnar Stockton do what Trinidad Chambliss did to Georgia last season? Can he do what Carson Beck did to Ole Miss last season? Can he do what Fernando Mendoza on 4th down with a national championship on the line? Can Gunnar Stockton make the throw or call his own number and go make the play that needs to be made to win a title?
We've seen him do it. He did it in the 4th quarter against Tennessee when they were down.
He did.
4th and 16, straight dime.
You couldn't throw that ball better than Gunnar Stockton did. You couldn't. He walked up and handed that football to London Humphreys and just so happened to do it, from 20 yards downfield.
They just didn't really ask him to do it again, which was kind of surprising.
They didn't have to. I mean, even in that Ole Miss game in the regular season where they're down double digits going into the 4th quarter there, they still didn't really have to ask him to do much. In that game against Florida in the world's largest outdoor cocktail party, Georgia was down late in that game. And yet they handed the ball to Chauncey Bowens. Chauncey Bowens rips it, and we play the call every day on the intro. That touchdown by Chauncey Bowens was the last time the lead changed in Georgia's favor. So you didn't have to ask Gunnar Stockton to do it. He did deliver the one time that you did ask him to do it, but can he do it consistently? I think is the biggest question. Because if he can, Georgia's going to be a massive, massive problem for anybody that they face this season.
Especially with his legs. He did it quite a few times with his legs as well. That Ole Miss game, he had 2 rushing touchdowns. Texas, he put the dagger in their coffin in that game.
Ran all over the yard. We saw it early in his career, right? Taking off, and he got walloped in the SEC championship against Texas, but he made the play. He got the first down, set you up 1st and goal in a short yardage situation, and held on to the ball. Gunnar Stockton's asleep at the 5-yard line, and that ball's still just cradled in his chest, not letting that thing go. So we know he's got the mental toughness. We know he's got the physical fortitude. He's got to do it a little more consistently, but I think Gunnar Stockton, again, is one of your better chances for Georgia to be successful this season. I think he's probably your best chance you've had since you finally put Stetson in the game, if you're Georgia.
Agreed.
So if he could be Stetson Bennett, I see no issue. I see no reason why Georgia couldn't be hoisting that national championship trophy on January 25th, that night there in Las Vegas, Nevada. We'll come back on the other side of this break, wrap up the loose ends as we talk another first-time SEC head coach, first-time head coach in general at the college football level, Will Stein and the Kentucky Wildcats, right here on Tide 100.9 and 1230 AM WTBC.
This hour's West Alabama real-time news update from the Tuscaloosa Thread Newsroom.
Yesterday's primary elections across Alabama produced few surprises, setting up a gubernatorial race between Republican Tommy Tuberville and Democrat Doug Jones. In Walker County, embattled Sheriff Nick Smith was voted out, finishing 3rd in a race headed to a runoff without him. And a Tuscaloosa man faces a murder charge after a preliminary autopsy found a woman he allegedly dumped in Greene County died by asphyxiation. For the details on these stories and more free coverage of local news, get connected at TuscaloosaThread.com.
Coming up on The Game with Ryan Fowler.
Coming up on the Wednesday edition of The Game, we'll talk to Aaron Torres, Fox Sports national analyst. We'll talk to Bill Conley. He's got some strong opinions on the college football playoff expansion talk. We'll start 2 p.m. right here on The Game with Ryan Fowler on Tide 100.9, 1230 WTBC, your home of Alabama Crimson Tide Sports.
The longest running sports talk show in Tuscaloosa. The Game with Ryan Fowler. Weekdays from 2 to 6 p.m. on Tide 100.9 and 12:30 a.m. WTBC. And streaming worldwide on the free Tide app.
Get your life back when the world's gone crazy. Get your life back. And I don't mean maybe when you know you got to have a friend. You call 833-833-MARY-WIZ and get your life back, baby. Get your life back, baby. Stephen Mezrano, Alabama Injury Lawyers. Mez wins.
Hey, I'm Richard Adams with Adams Services, your local experts. Don't let power outages disrupt your life or business. With a Honeywell generator, you get reliable backup power to keep everything running smoothly. For a limited time, a free 10-year parts and service warranty, as well as financing as low as $189 a month. Give Adams Services a call at 205-339-6540 or visit us at adamsvcs.com. Your local expert.
If you're looking for a great way to spend the day on the water, Redline Power Sports rents pontoons on Lake Tuscaloosa by calling 205-737-7425.
If you're looking for a golf cart or repairs to yours, stop by Dixie Custom Carts on Greensboro Avenue in Tuscaloosa. They sell Club Car, Donago, and Atlas golf carts. They can customize it to your specifications with a lift, tires, wheels, and lights. Dixie Custom Carts also carries a full line of parts and accessories, including chargers, windshields, hitches, Bluetooth kits, and so much more. If your golf cart needs repairs, the pros at Dixie Custom Carts can handle the job. Dixie Custom Carts, Greensboro Avenue in Tuscaloosa.
Memorial Day savings are happening at the Home Depot. Get up to an extra $1,000 off select top brand appliances like Frigidaire. Plus, get free delivery. Upgrade your kitchen with a fridge with an extra large ice capacity, a stone-baked pizza oven, or a dishwasher offering an extra fast 50-minute normal wash cycle. Save on appliances this Memorial Day at the Home Depot. Offer valid May 14th through June 3rd. U.S. only. Free delivery on appliance purchases of $998 or more. See store online for details.
Tide 100.9 Tuscaloosa weather.
Here's your Tuscaloosa and West Alabama forecast. We're going to hold on to clouds here this afternoon. Scattered showers and storms around 87. The storm chances continue through the night tonight down to 68. More storms on tap for tomorrow. High tomorrow 86. The rain chances continue on here through the close of the week and into the holiday weekend. Daytime highs in the mid-80s, nighttime lows in the upper 60s. This is Richard Weathering at the Weather Channel for Town Square Media, Tuscaloosa.
It's 90 degrees in Tuscaloosa.
Alabama Crimson Tide lives right here.
Down to the pylon. Touchdown, Alabama.
On Tide 100.9.
Talking anonymous SEC coaches' comments across the Southeastern Conference here. And the next team up that we will talk about here when you look at anonymous SEC coaching comments here is the Kentucky Wildcats and new head coach Will Stein here. According to Athlon Sports, an anonymous SEC head coach says about Kentucky, with the talent base that new head coach Will Stein inherited, the only thing I wonder about is the fact that he had more talent than everybody else at Oregon for most of the games. It'll be interesting to see him going from one of the haves to the have-nots and how that's going to transition while still not losing your enthusiasm, your connection with the players, and all of those kinds of things. I haven't seen a ton of Notre Dame quarterback transfer Kenny Minchie, but I've heard good things about him as an athlete and as a person. He clearly has legit talent, and those guys are hard to find here. Yeah, you look at Kentucky, and we've heard a lot of great things about Kenny Minchie, but like this coach said, we haven't seen much from him. And then you look at Kentucky's roster talent here. They're not going to be one of the big spenders across the sport of college football. Now, college basketball is a different story. Mark Pope and what they're doing over in Kentucky is a completely different story in terms of a financial standpoint. But Will Stein and the football side of things, you're going to have to beat somebody. You're going to have to win before you get the money, which is one of the hardest things to do in the modern era of college football. If Kenny Minchey can be a successful player, maybe that is a diamond in the rough that you go find. Maybe CJ Baxter does kind of elevate to the talent level that he had coming out of high school there and lives up to the hype that he had, that maybe injuries kind of limited him at Texas there. But it's not an easy schedule for Kentucky. I mean, Will Stein, welcome to the SEC. Your first game is Alabama. Kind of getting the Eli Drinkwitz treatment there, where his first two games were Alabama and then the reigning national champion LSU. Well, Will Stein, you got to kind of deal with the same thing when your first game is going to be against the Crimson Tide here. And so I'm nervous for Kentucky. Kind of same thing with Ryan Silverfield, right? A very, very talented coach, a very, very good coach, a very, very good offensive-minded person. However, we're a little concerned when we look at the talent level that you're going to be inheriting there. And then defensively for Kentucky, that was a guarantee to be at least top 50 unit under Mark Stoops. But is that going to be the case now? We just don't know with Kentucky. And so I'm really nervous about Kentucky this upcoming season. I think, Jackson, it's always really funny when you see these coaches, they take over, they're so excited, they're enthusiastic, and then comparing their first press conference in year number 1 to their first press conference in year number 2, it looks like they've been hit by a Mack truck. They forgot to shave. Their hair's grown out. You see the light leave their eyes. And so I'm worried that Kentucky football is going to do that to Will Stein.
Yeah, I can see that. And I mean, that's been the case for every head coach. But I would also say that while Kentucky doesn't have like the pedigree, they're also not Arkansas. They're also not Mississippi State. They do have, like, Mark Stoops did do a good job at keeping that program consistently hovering around the 7 to 9 wins, although his last season was quite a drop off. You could see Kentucky have, the middle of the pack in the SEC viability that they had under Stoops. And I think with an offensive-led head coach, they can still have that same consistency if he gets the defensive coordinator correct, because that's a lot of what happens in the SEC runs through defenses. And yes, you do have quality offenses, but if you don't have a quality defense to back that up, you usually go to the wayside, like what we saw with Mississippi State this past season.
Yeah, and we'll talk about Mississippi State tomorrow here on the program. We tried to land through the top half of the SEC. Not quite going to be able to get through all the top half of the SEC, but we'll finish this conversation out tomorrow here on the Deep South College Football Show. But no, you're absolutely right. I mean, a lot of what the SEC does runs through defenses. It runs through high-powered defenses and elite-level talent along the trenches. It's been a major concern for the SEC the last couple of seasons. Kind of your staple programs that have always had really, really good trench play, they've fallen off a little bit, right? Alabama's really kind of fallen off when you look at offensive and defensive line play. Georgia had a blip there where they really struggled in the offensive line. Oklahoma, a team that normally is pretty good on offense and has really good offensive line play, they were not that last season, at least during the middle portion of the season. They got better as the year went on, and they started the year really hot. But injuries and things like that kind of derailed what Oklahoma was doing last season there. LSU under Brian Kelly didn't really have the high-level offensive and defensive line play that we're used to seeing out of Baton Rouge. Texas A&M's always got really good talent, but it's kind of tough to consistently recruit that level of talent when you look at what Texas A&M was putting out on the field here. So really, really interested and a little nervous to see what happens there with Kentucky this upcoming season. Let's jump out of the phone lines to wrap up the program. We'll head on down to Louisiana and talk with Digger. Digger, how you doing?
Will Stein, listen, this guy won a 6A football championship in the state of Texas. He's got a winning record against the District of Doom. That's arguably the best football district in the whole country. Do not sleep on this guy. He had a little system where he would crunch tape and get a plan going, and he would only allow the high school, his team, to prepare for the game on a Wednesday afternoon, and by Friday, he only had a day to do the game plan. And he had a winning record. Can I ask this question?
What was the talent level he had in Texas, though? I understand it may not have been, what the District of Doom had, but what was the talent level that he had? That's what I'm saying. He had a really good level of talent at Texas. At Kentucky, unless you're playing Arkansas or Mississippi State or, your poor G5 team, they're going to have the lesser talent on that field.
He's very good with the quarterback, and he knows how to use his running back. Understand that. I don't know about his defense, but I know offensive-minded, he will do something. Trust me. Don't sleep on this guy. He's not an idiot. I'll let you go on that.
All right. That's down in Louisiana there, talking with the resident Texas expert. But, I mean, in Texas high school football, he had more talent than anybody not named Duncanville, more than likely. And at Oregon, he had more talent at Oregon than anybody else in the country, right? Until he went out and lined up against, Indiana or, Georgia. At Oregon, you've got more, or Ohio State. At Oregon, you've got more talent than everybody else that you're going to play against. At Kentucky, no disrespect to these programs, but unless you're playing Arkansas or Mississippi State or, Auburn, you're probably not going to have better talent than what those programs do. You sure as hell aren't going to have it in week 1 or in week 2 against Alabama. You're not going to have. Kentucky does not have better talent than Louisville. And we consider Louisville what? Probably a mid-tier ACC school. So looking at that, you're really, really playing at a disadvantage. You're boxing with one hand tied behind your back. Matter of fact, you're boxing with your dominant hand tied behind your back here. If you're Will Stein and you're number 1 at Kentucky. So you're going to have to win first. You've got to beat somebody notable before you're really going to start to get the buy-in and really going to start to get the money that you need in order to be, quote unquote, a successful program in Lexington, Kentucky regarding football. That'll do it for us today here on the Deep South College Football Show. On the radio side of things, coming up next, the game with Ryan Fowler from 2 until 6 p.m. If you're watching us on YouTube, big thanks to everybody who tuned into the show. Big thanks to Adam for chatting with us here today on the program. Big thanks to Jackson, Reed, Norris for hanging out with us in the studio. We'll be back with the Thursday edition of the Deep South College Football Show right here on Tide 100.9 and 1230 a.m. WTBC, our YouTube page, Tide 100.9 Facebook page, and the X account at Fulton W_. We will see you guys tomorrow at 1 o'clock.